Hi guys, it's Miss Janison, and I'm going to be showing you how to make this mask. This mask has a shaped nose from pipe cleaners, and it also has a way to insert a filter. So it's 2 layers with a possible insert filter, and it also has a drawstring right here, and so the elastic can be adjusted. The first thing we need to do is cut out a 6.5 by 18-inch piece of fabric. I know I'm going to, and what I'm using is an old sheet. This is an old queen size sheet. It's 100% cotton, and it turns out it's perfect to make these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up like this. I'm going to start cutting, and then I can do a big long one. Do the same thing on the bottom. The fabric has grains, kind of like wood, and it rips along the grains. I'm going to measure it like this. Okay, and now I've got this piece of fabric. First thing you need to do is fold that long rectangle in half so the 2 short sides are together. You're going to line them up and pin them together. And then you can either hand sew this part, or if you've got a sewing machine, you're going to sew it so that you have about a 1/4 inch seam or hem. You always backspace to lock your thread. And we're not going the whole way, we're just going part of the way. You go about 1.5 inches or so, then you backspace again. You're going to leave about a 2-inch gap, and then go forward, backspace to lock, pull out your pins as you go to the end, backspace one more time to lock. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up that seam we just created, and we're going to press flat the sides. We're going to use a zigzag stitch for this part to keep the edges from fraying. And this is going to be 1 long stitch. You need to be careful that the thread or the fabric does not bunch up as you're sewing, or you're going to have to stop and pull it all out and start over again. So you can see I'm carefully making sure that it's staying straight and the fabric is not getting tangled up underneath. So I go a little ways, I keep going, and I'm doing that zigzag stitch down the line. Backspace to finish. Now I'm going to do the opposite side. Backspace to start. Then I'm going to go down this other side. This is going to be where the opening is to put in the removable filter. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a straight stitch down the entire long side of the mask. As you can see, I am not going to start right on the edge though. I'm going to start about 3/4 inch in, and I'm going to go straight across, and then I'm going to end about 3/4 inch from the end as well. That's about the width of your thumb or so, and I'm going to backspace at the end as well. Flipped it over. You can see how there's a 1/4 inch gap. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Backspace to lock. Straight across. And then backspace at the end, making sure you leave that gap. Got an opening. It's like a little pouch. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it inside out. The reason why you do it like this is so then you don't have those raw edges. So now I've just got the thread, but for the most part it's pretty clean looking. Like this. All the way around like this. This little section right here, where we didn't go quite all the way, this is where our thread is going to, our elastic's going to go through. So if you have an iron, this is the time you want to iron it flat. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the edge. See how I did this with the green? I'm going to just go around like that. And it's hard to tell, but you can see how it's a straight stitch right where the end is. The short side's a straight stitch, and then the long sides are the zigzags. So I'm going to start. So we're starting on the short side, and we're going to start right on the edge, about 3/4 of the way in. I'm going to make sure it's lined up, and then I'm going to go straight down. Turning the corner, so you notice how I left the needle down. When you leave the needle down like that, you can pivot back. You can use it as a pivot point. And while the needle was up, I switched it over to zigzag, and now I'm doing the zigzag down the whole long side. I did not have to backspace on that other corner because I did not cut the threads. You only have to backspace when you cut the threads. I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm going forward by hand now. I leave the needle down. I spin the mask. I'm going to lift the needle. I'm going to do a straight stitch now. So you don't want to switch from zigzag to straight stitch while your needle's down, or you're going to break your needle. So I'm going forward, and then I do the last one by hand. I put the needle down, spin it. I'm going to lift the needle up. Now I'm switching it to zigzag. You can see how the needle is shifting. Put the foot down, and then I'm going to go finish right along this long side with the zigzag. You don't have to do the zigzag pattern. I just do it because it's a little fancier. There's other stitches you could use as well. Now when I get to the end here, I'm going to backspace because I'm going to be cutting the thread. Okay, so there, just take the pins out. So here's the basic part right here. You could leave. So I put a safety pin on the end, and then I just feed it through like this. So I push it. I don't know if you can see. And then I slide. I push it in, then I slide it. It's a little tricky to get the pin out because you've got some folds right here, so just be patient. I usually put my fingertip in and try to feel for it. There it is. So now I can, when I scoot this down, it acts like the pleats that you'd put in otherwise. So I just put it on both sides like that. I put the elastic on. And then what I'll do is I'll leave it long. This will be an adjustable one, so this will be one that you could donate. And then they can adjust it as needed, cut off the extra, and then just slide it around. If this is a mask for yourself, what you can do is figure out how big you want it, slide it so you can actually, instead of a safety pin, sew it, and then slide it into the thing here so you can't see it, and then actually put a couple stitches so it stays bunched like this. You want it to be like this to make it fit properly. So I'm going to put in this is a pipe cleaner, and I folded it in half, and then I just bent the ends. So I bent the long sides here. I just bent it over and pinched it so that you don't have a sharp edge sticking out. Slide it in the opening like this. I'm going to center it and put it up. Right now it's between my two fingers. Push it up as far as I can. And I got my thread. Here's a trick if you're doing hand sewing. You look at the tip of your finger, you pinch the two strings like this, you wrap it around once, and then you go like this. And what it does is it twists the string together, and then you just pull it down, and you have a knot. There's a trick for you for hand sewing. So this part you have to hand sew. I'm gonna, just to make it look nicer, I'm gonna start with the knot on the inside. You, of course, do not need to do that. So I pull it through like that. Actually, I should start at one end. I started in the middle. I'll just do half of it though. And then what I do is I just basically go back and forth. If you have thread that actually matches the fabric, and as you can see, it's already off center, this is where you have to be careful. So since I've only put one stitch in, I can move it back to where it needs to be. What I do is on the side that's going to show, I do little stitches, and on the back side, I do wider ones, just to make it a little neater. You can see I'm doing small stitches, wider stitches, and I just go all the way to the end. So it's not the most beautiful with the black lines there, but you know, whatever. To finish, I'm just gonna go through one more time. So I just put it through the, you see I put it through the stitch like that. And then I wrap the string twice around my needle. And then I pull it like that, and it makes a knot, and I want to do it at least 2 times. So I go through again, I wrap it around the needle, I pull it through, and then to make sure this is not going to unwrap, I don't want to cut it right tight, so I'm just going to go and I'm just going to feed it through like that, and then I cut it, and it will keep it from the knot from unraveling. So there you go.